Lewitt makes some of the best microphones in the entire world. They're killer, bang for the buck mics that give much more expensive industry standard choices a serious run for their money. I use Lewitts all over my drums and even on my guitar cabs. The LCT 440 Pure is one of the best price to performance condenser mics out there, and their tom mic, the DTP 340TT, say that 10 times fast, are every bit as good as the classic Sennheiser MD421, except 1/4 the price. Needless to say, I've never used a microphone from them that I didn't love. So when this beast showed up at my door, you can imagine just how excited I was to try it out. Let's check out what could possibly be the greatest microphone of the modern generation. So back in the year 2020, just before the shit hit the fan, I got to check out a prototype of the 1040, and my initial impressions were basically, holy fuck, this thing is incredible. Oh, come on. Are you kidding? That is freaking sick. Wow. Sadly, this was in the early stage of the pandemic and the production was delayed. Now in 2022, it is finally here! And I gotta say, wow, is this thing ever amazing. So I'm gonna go over 5 reasons, and for all you drummers, that's this many, 5 reasons why I think this is the best microphone you can buy in 2022. Number 1, all analog design. In a world that's bursting at the seams with digital this and emulation that, something like the 1040 is very refreshing to see. This mic's 100% analog. And now you might be thinking, yeah, no kidding, it's a microphone. And you'd be absolutely right. But take a look at this. This is the remote it comes with. You've got features here that you think you would see on a plugin, except it's not a plugin, it's all analog. And we're gonna take an extensive look at this remote in a minute, but the main point is that there's no digital screwing around happening when it comes to how this captures sound. There's no tube emulation because it happens to be a real tube. Now sure, switching brands of tubes might not change the sound of a guitar amp, but they do add a certain flavor when it comes to amps and especially microphones, especially when you drive them. Let's check out how this thing sounds on voiceover.
Marvin regarded it with cold loathing, while his logic circuits chattered with disgust and tinkered with the concept of directing physical violence against it. Further circuits cut in, saying, "Why bother? What's the point? Nothing is worth getting involved in."
Number 2, it's infinitely tweakable. This remote is really something else. What's cool is that they're all laid out in a very sensible way that doesn't overwhelm you with options. On the panel, we've got a blend circuit that goes from 100% tube to 100% FET. We've got 4 different tube character options: clear, warm, dark, and saturated. Over to the right, we've got a switchable high-pass filter in 40 Hz increments, and this is useful for getting the low-end crud out of your signal before it even hits your converters, like, say, down-tune metal rhythm guitars. Also, a variable attenuator for -6, 12, and 24 dB. Now, as a metal guy, this is a very welcome feature, as I'm usually recording very loud sources like screaming vocals, guitar cabs, and drums. The attenuator is a big help for getting those signals under control. And finally, there's the polar pattern selector, which allows you to do everything from cardioid to figure 8 to omnidirectional and pretty much everything in between. Oh, and for stupid engineers that sometimes talk on the wrong side of a microphone, not mentioning any names, just don't look at that video I did a few years ago. They've included a reverse switch for the polar pattern. They've really thought of everything when putting this together, and it's an invaluable tool for dialing in the right sound before you're ever gonna even hit record. You want grit on your vocals? Done. You want high gain guitar amps as clean as possible? Done. You want to tweak the ever-living crap out of an acoustic guitar? Done. All of this, mind you, without even touching an EQ. You see, every good recording engineer is going to tell you this: get the sound right at the source. Why? Because an EQ is basically a terrible amplifier for just a certain frequency band, and using too much of it is going to add noise into your signal. It's just good practice, and in this profession, it's what separates the musicians from the drummers who bail out on major festivals without bothering to tell anybody. Now, this is where the 1040 really shines. All these tweakability options make this mic very flexible, and it means you're going to spend far less time messing around in post to get things to sound good. Number 3, it speeds up your workflow. Not only is the remote loaded with features, but there's an even cooler design choice the Lewitt team put in here. You can use the power supply attached to the remote if you're just recording yourself, or you can detach the remote, keep the mic plugged into the power supply near whatever you're recording, and bring the remote with you into the control room. Like I've got mine right here. That is an extremely cool and very useful feature. You guys have heard me ramble on and on about how important mic placement is when it comes to recording high gain metal guitars. Changing where the mic is on a speaker, even by a few millimeters, is going to have a drastic impact on the tone. That's why I fell in love with the Dynamount remote control mic stand. It lets me move the mic around without having to hop back and forth between my rooms, all in the hope of finding the best placement. The 1040 does it in its own unique way. Different configurations on the remote are going to yield different sounds. And personally, it took me no time at all to figure out what sounds best. One of my favorite modes has to be the dark tube setting. It's just so smooth and it rounds off those harsh highs on a high gain lead tone in a way that's very pleasing to listen to. Being able to do that without having to get out of my chair makes this thing absolutely invaluable. And it's not just guitar cabs that this feature is useful on. Vocals are something this mic is going to handle flawlessly, and let me tell you exactly how and why. You see, some mics work well with some sources, others maybe not so much. For example, you might have a microphone that sounds great for your own voice, but on certain people, it might not work. We all have different voices after all, and the 1040 aims to erase that issue. Instead of spending time trying to find the right mic for your vocalist, you can just throw it up and dial it in from the comfort of your control room. This saves you a ton of time and your client's money. And believe me, after you've been recording bands for 20 years, you begin to appreciate things like this, things that make your sessions go smoother. Number 4, sturdy construction and accessories. Just like all other Lewitt mics, this thing has rock solid construction. It's just beautifully put together, it's sturdy as hell, and check this out. It's made out of carbon fiber! I don't have direct confirmation on this, but I think they went with this to make the mic lighter. Tube mics are usually pretty heavy, and you don't want to put the mic like this on anything other than your best stand. That is, unless you've got a thing for broken microphones, in which case, please have yourself institutionalized. So the Lewitt gang, being the smart folks that they are, figured, hey, someone's buying our inexpensive microphone, let's make sure they can use it on the stand that they already have at home and not have to buy one that costs half a month's salary, and ended up using carbon fiber on some of the more crucial elements. And not only is carbon fiber very light, it's even stronger than metals like steel. So chances are that even if you get a drunken buffoon in your studio, him knocking over the mic won't lead to that much damage. Well, we can hope. Anyway, great job, Lewitt. Not only is the mic and remote extremely well built, but even the accessories it comes with are unlike anything I've ever seen before. First of all, the shock mount. Coolest looking shock mount I've ever seen. And what I love about this is that there's no threading a mic on the mount. It just slides in and you lock it down with this little arm. And the pop filter is super cool as well. Check this out. It's got magnets. Not only is it magnetically attached, it's also double layered, giving it an extra bit of protection from the plosives and hard consonants. It's the little details like this that speed up your workflow and get you back to doing what's important, working on a performance rather than wasting time setting things up. At this point, the only thing this mic is missing is a button on the remote that sends a fatal electric shock to any idiot who tries to cup it. Number 5, it's a modern classic. All in all, this mic is absolutely stellar. Dare I even say flawless? It sounds great on just everything, and it's easy to work with. So why are people so surprised that it costs $3,500? Look, this mic has been in development for almost 10 years. Every single little detail has been accounted for and designed to perfection. This mic is the pinnacle of modern design. You guys want to talk about expensive microphones? Well, let's compare the price tag of the 1040 to something from Neumann. This is the M149. It's a tube mic, and it's got 5 pickup patterns on it, and what's that? The cost? Oh yeah, it's a measly $5,000 and change. And to be completely honest, there's plenty of companies that make recreations of highly expensive mics. Anyway, the 1040 is its own design. It's a unique approach that I personally have never seen before, and it's been executed flawlessly. Look, Obviously, this mic isn't for the kid recording himself in his bedroom. This microphone is one of those things you buy because it's going to be the centerpiece of your studio. It's an investment. If you buy this, I guarantee you'll never ever consider a Neumann. And that's why I love this microphone so much. It's pushing technology forward, it's breaking new ground, and in my opinion, it's one of those mics that's bound to become a classic. Just like the Neumanns, the Telefunkens, the Coles, and the other names before it, the Lewitt LCT 1040 is something engineers decades from now are still going to be reaching for. I'm just glad I got to be one of the first people to try it out. What can I say? I love seeing history being made with my own eyes. Oh yeah, did I mention this thing is absolutely nuts on metal guitar? We mic'd up my Rev Generator 120 into a custom-made 2x12 loaded with Celestion EVH speakers. Check this out. Yeah, that tone pretty much speaks for itself. In fact, after working with this mic over the last few days, I think I'm going to put my vintage U87 up for sale because I honestly just don't see a need for it anymore. For more details on the 1040, be sure to check it out over at lewittaudio.com. And for those of you who are wondering, I'm going to be doing a vocal demo with it in a few weeks as a collab with another Canadian YouTuber. She's got an amazing voice and I'm very much looking forward to recording her with this thing. Make sure you subscribe so you get notified when that video drops because you're not going to want to miss it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Further circuits amuse themselves by analysing the molecular components of the door and of the humanoid's brain cells. For a quick encore, they measured the level of hydrogen emissions in the surrounding cubic parsec of space, and then shut down again in boredom. A spasm of despair shook the robot's body as he turned. "Come on," he droned. "I've been ordered to take you down to the bridge. Here I am, brain the size of a planet, and they asked me to take you down to the bridge. Call that job satisfaction? 'Cause I don't." He turned and walked back to the hated door.